Have you ever listened to psychic mediums and everything turns out to be light and bright and all is well? Have you then realized that there's more to reveal, that maybe something is missing? Welcome to Shades of Spirit Radio with me, psychic medium Jaime. Join me as I connect you to all shades of spirit during this live call-in show. I'm a medium, Reiki master, spiritual connector, and paranormal investigator. I provide a safe space for people to turn when they are scared and need a non-judgmental heart. I'm going to help you, the listeners, identify ways you can connect by supplying the spiritual tools you can use in your everyday life when connecting with spirit. We reach everyone and exclude no one. Are you ready to connect with spirit? This show is leaving nothing off limits. Shades of Spirit starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shades of Spirit with me, psychic medium Jaime. I realized the other day, actually, that when I introduce myself, I always put psychic medium Jaime, right? But I always leave out that part where I'm also a Reiki master teacher. And the more that I'm doing energy work, the more I want to acknowledge that in my introduction. So yes, I communicate with those on the other side of the mediumship skills. Yes, I do psychic readings. I do oracle card readings. You're going to not find me do tarot because I get information so quick that it takes me too long to sort out tarot. Yet I love tarot. I'll do it for myself. But I really take honor, especially in the ways of how energy can work and where I was given this gift from, which was through my Reiki master and the masters before her. And I just wanted to give a shout out to, all of you that do energy work and connect with energy work, because it's such a powerful experience and it can help us move energy in so many different ways than just the etheric bodies. That part of the show is really about me connecting into a deep level of energy in which I don't necessarily want to face on a day-to-day basis, where a lot of you don't want to face on a day-to-day basis, right? Which is why I put up there in my description, not everything is seen through rose-colored glasses, right? How many of you have heard that saying? Oh, just look at it through rose-colored glasses. To me, I'm thinking, first of all, my eyes are very sensitive. I have blue eyes, and rose-colored glasses outside doesn't work because it just reflects that light inward. So that doesn't work for me. But I understand the principle behind that statement, if you will, that when we're out in the world, we are trying to look at things in a very positive light. The majority of the time, we're trying to portray ourselves in that positive light the majority of the time. But no matter how spiritual we are, how connected we are to our angels and our spirit guides and our loved ones, even the higher ups, as I love LaShawn the Luminous Mystic will say, our archangels, and even for those that are in that religious belief with Jesus and God or whatever or whomever you pray to, right? We don't always feel like we're that connected. Or no matter how hard we try, which I know I do this one, to protect my energy day in and day out, right? I get up in the morning, I'm trying to protect my energy, even if it's from my family. I mean, how many of you, raise your hand, can identify with that you don't know what you're walking out to, whether you have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, or you've got a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's a spouse. We just don't know. So I am trying to start from the first moment my eyes open to take a moment and really center ground and shield myself. But that doesn't always work every day, or there are days where I forget, right? We can still be faced with the darkness within. And the darkness doesn't choose the appropriate time to come out. Now, does it? Now we try and stuff it down. However that darkness looks to you. It could just be raw emotions. It could be deep-seated feelings. It could be traumatic experiences we've had. We just keep trying to push it down. But when the floodgates open, right? Whether that's maybe you in a car and somebody cuts you off and you're screaming at them and you're, spewing out obscenities and flicking, whatever it is, right? That's probably not safe to do anyway. But all of a sudden it's just erupted like a volcano. Or maybe it's really alone in that downtime that you have where you quiet yourself and you're ready to maybe meditate, and all of a sudden it springs up on us, right? I want to talk about the raw side of how spirit works, how our spiritual selves and our human selves can actually become in battle with one another, and how raw that can be, and yet how I overcome them every day, which it is a battle every single day. Some days are much better than others, but at least one part of my day will be tuned into some of that dark energy that I carry within. And dark energy, I want you guys to know this off the bat, does not mean negative energy. It does not mean that demonic entities are following us around. No. Dark energy is how we see dark energy, right? So it can be emotions, it can be physical trauma, it can be, there's no invalid reason why. Very rarely am I going to see something that's attached to someone that's a dark energy, and that's the darkness they're carrying in within themselves. So I want to give you guys something to kind of have an image in your mind, right? Because this literally was me. I'd say this was probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. And I have been through this a few times now since then, because I have been doing a lot of inner child work and a lot of shadow work in order to continue healing and to be able to move past my own limitations that I put on myself and beliefs, and to continue rising in my vibration. And this is how it looks. Okay, so we're up on kind of a hill. I've got these bay windows so I can see across the little valley that we've got. There's other little hills and mountains in the background, some houses spread out across those, right? So I want you guys, you can close your eyes and picture this on how that would look for you. It's kind of like a guided imagery, or kind of like a little guided meditation without the music and without the happy feelings and thoughts. But that's okay, because if we allow ourselves to be in that space, then what happens is that we allow ourselves to open up safely. So what I first do is I'll stand in front of that bay window and I will say, all right, spirit team, I'm not feeling good today, whether it's emotionally, physically, all of the above, or I had a trigger that set something off within inside me, and I can just feel it welling up. And we can feel it welling up way in advance sometimes. And I will say, I need your protection, your love, and light. Archangel Michael, please come in and protect me. But I want to be able to open up and feel this raw side of this energy and allow myself to be open and vulnerable and accept the emotions that are going to come so I can work through them. Okay. So I always set myself up to do that. And a lot of times I will cleanse my home before I do this as well, just to make sure that it is of pure love and light. Right. So you can close your eyes, but not if you're driving. Okay. Don't do that. Get it when you get home. But I'm looking out my window. Okay. It's about dusk. That's that time for me where that darkness sets in. My inner demons, if you will, because I will call them that. That is my own term, not the literal sense, but that darkness within starts to rise. I can feel it, right? I start getting emotional. I start getting kind of moody. I start just feeling agitated. And I know that it's time for me to start shifting this, okay? It's that feelings of loneliness, guilt, betrayal, hopelessness. And I can just feel them start to sink in deeper and deeper, right? So for me, those are keywords: loneliness, guilt, betrayal, and hopelessness. Those are my 4 words that I will use to identify how I'm feeling. And it's a time where I just start dwelling on secrets from my past, which when we get into this dark space, that's a lot of times where we go first. Are those little secrets behind door number 1, door number 2, right? That start to open up, whatever that trigger point was. And I'll tell you what my trigger point was in a second, just so you can understand where I'm coming from for this one. But those secrets from the past, and then looking at where I'm at now, and then wondering what the future holds, all of that starts going through my head. And I'm just gazing out my window, looking at the scenery, just looking at the trees and being very observant of what's in front of me, but allowing myself that safe space to feel. Not very optimistic though, does it, right? If I'm in a space of loneliness, guilt, betrayal, those are very low vibrations for someone to be in, as you hear me talk about often. I am at the bottom of that spectrum right now. My energy is so closed off and so tight. I tell you this, I do this only when I'm by myself, because that's when I allow myself to relax, whether that's just watching TV and just relax and have some downtime. That's when it hits me. And it's a dangerous thing for those of us that will suffer from depression and anxiety when we are by ourselves and all of a sudden this emotion starts to come in, which is also why I make sure that I reach out to any and all people in my life that I know will answer the phone at any given moment if I drop into a space that low. And thankfully, I haven't been in that space. I'm just working through the emotions. But if any of you start to feel that way, we have the suicide prevention hotlines. There are friends, there's family. Call 911, whatever you need to do, because I've lost too many people in my life to suicide. And what triggered this emotion for me was that one of my daughter's friends, she's 18 now, I'm hoping to have her on the show maybe next month, now that they're kind of winding down from graduation and stuff, but she actually wrote a book of poetry. And her poetry hit the nail on the head through multiple life experiences that she had, to the point where I started bringing up raw emotion from my teenage years, preteen years. And that energy was starting to compound with what's gone on in my adult life and was ready to start shifting again. So it can be something that we've read. I didn't know what to expect in this book. Very profound information from a writer who was 14 to 18 when she wrote it and then published it right around her 18th birthday. But that's how I started feeling, was I was going back into those moments and times, right? Now, my spiritual self, when I allow myself to move into that space, sometimes I don't have a choice, honestly, is like, okay, snap out of it, right? You've now acknowledged these feelings, look at the beautiful view, snap out of it. Or it'll be like, do what you tell others to do, right? It's so much easier for us to tell others what to do. And then when we're in the middle of it, all of that goes out the window. Well, I have that playing in my head, right? And then it's find the joy in life. Be grateful for what you had. Sometimes those are not the things that we want to hear in the moment of us feeling at some of our lowest points, right? At the same time, I'm listening to my spirit team. I'm connecting. I am feeling these emotions. And now I'm knowing that I have to counter that dark energy that is starting to shift within me with positive love and light. I can hear my spirit team saying, stay connected with us and be present. That is a big part when we're moving emotional energy through in the spiritual sense, right? I am not a therapist. I'm not a licensed therapist. Okay. I'm not a doctor. I am someone that works in energy, and I'm someone that have had their fair share of traumatic experiences in their life to know when that energy starts to arise that I need to face it head on. And yes, I have gone to see a therapist in order to help me work through that myself. And then I also work with it on the spiritual side, which I know many of you do, whatever that looks like to you, right? But then I realized yet how connected I am, right? The psychic medium, Reiki Master Jaime over here that you guys see on Transformation Talk Radio, that you see on our Facebook pages, that you've had readings from, I am still human. And I cannot always be shielded from the loneliness and sadness that really falls upon me at dark. When it becomes dark, that is my low point. And a big part of it is because as the world shuts down, I shut down. I feel like Anna and Elsa in Frozen. And all of a sudden I end up in this space. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to stand here through the duration of the sun setting tonight. I want to watch this process, and I want to see what my feelings are and my reflections are in that moment. So I'm now in this space of loneliness, betrayal, anger, fear, right? And I'm looking out the window and the sun's starting to set. And I want you guys to picture this. It is absolutely stunning when this happens. I'm looking out the mountainside. The sun is starting to set. The birds are quieting, right? You can just feel it. You can hear it. They're all just settling in for the night. All of a sudden, where the sun sets behind us, that reflects across all the windows on that hillside. And those windows are glowing. They're shining so brightly. And it's like my spirit guides trying to connect with me again, saying, look at the light. Look at the different types of light, the golds, the yellows, the whites. Bring that light to you. So I'll imagine that light coming in through that window and just enveloping me in that space, right? And they're trying to show me that glimpse of hope before the darkness starts to set in. And from there, all I have is that memory and that moment with them to connect back into as I'm working through my own emotion, right? So over the past few weeks, I have a lot of things to look forward to. I have had so many things to look forward to: celebrations, family celebrations, graduations, promotions, get-togethers, like just so many things to be thankful for. And yet those spaces in between become filled with such dread and sorrow. And it brings me into that lower vibrational space. And then with each step, just to get to the couch or walk out to the kitchen, it becomes more and more difficult to move forward. And my knees have been bothering me to the point where it literally is hard for me to move forward. And then I start identifying with that and start realizing that that's how it feels right now. I'm not looking at the good. I'm not looking at the positives. I'm not looking at all those cool things that are coming up. I am now sitting in that space of sadness and loneliness and wondering why this has happened to me, right? The whole woe is me, as my mom used to say to my brother and I. And I've had to identify the past few weeks that the life that I once knew is no longer the life that I know now. And that is very empowering. I know it doesn't sound like it should be, but it really is, right? Because the life that I have now is a gift and it is to be cherished. And I understand that and know that where I'm at now in life is not what my life was before. It comes down to what I had to do for a living before, the day job, right? Where I was at in relationships, all of that has shifted. And a big part of it is because of my physical health with my knees. And yet I'm cherishing these moments. I'm cherishing these relationships and watching my kids grow up and thrive. And yet I can't move forward. And that becomes a very hard place to be in, right? So for me, I identified that as feeling alienated, but I've alienated myself, right? And feeling alienated will lead to our mental and emotional and physical disconnect. Because that's what we've done. I've separated myself out. You can talk to people that I'm close with. They'll be week, 2 weeks, they haven't heard from me at all. I mean, how many of you have disappeared, right? You just disappear. And then all of a sudden you come back and then you disappear. And people will give you a hard time for disappearing. And what's wonderful now is the tribe that I have don't question when I disappear, right? They'll do a quick mental check. How's it going? How you doing? And that I appreciate, because sometimes we have to disappear because we feel alienated and we need to disappear from ourselves sometimes, right? And that becomes a bit tricky because we want to separate that higher self with our physical self. We don't function as tribes either. We wander as lost souls. And that also becomes difficult to identify with, because if we're walking the path of a lost soul, even through our darker times, where does that path lead? Where are those hopes, those dreams? But if you feel like they've been taken from you, or you feel like you've had to take a step back because of X, Y, and Z, wouldn't that be a reason to reflect, learn, and then shift your path, right? We're all born producers. I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're born producers of society, which then puts a lot of weight on our shoulders as humans. We're born into families, set up agreements with, right? We were on the other side. We got our blueprint. We're like, all right, you, and you. I definitely want you to be my parents, and I'm going to share a sibling role with you. And you guys be my aunt and uncle. And then you're going to be the person that comes in the 10th grade who I have a crush on and decides to break my heart. So I want to learn about relationships. We've set all this up. We wanted to understand what it was like to be human. We wanted to understand and be the receivers of pain and hardships and loneliness at some point in our lives in order to grow and thrive and really embody the spiritual ascension that we're all going through. So who here feels alone or is feeling like you're alienated right now? Right? Me. And I know many, many, many others of you have also felt the same way. Because if I was supposed to be born in as a product of society, is what we have made it to be. And we're no longer functioning as a tribe, right? And we're wandering as lost souls, even if it's just from time to time, then we're not connecting into this space, this heart space, this spiritual space, right? So for me, I mean, I'm only 25 again, so there you go. I've never lived alone. Lived with my parents, met my then boyfriend in high school. Then we got married. We moved in together right before we got married. Then we had 3 kids, right? Just dun, 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 dun. And then when we were getting separated, I moved in with a friend. I was never alone, ever. And then my kids, we had half and half custody, right? Okay, so I'm still never alone. A lot of shifting and moving, a lot of growing, but never alone. Well, this year that changed for me. And so I spend half my time alone. And it is horrifying for me. It's something that I know is my lesson, that I need to spend some time alone to bring myself into this darkness, to work through life, right? And I know it's supposed to be a good thing. And I have friends that have, been in relationships or they live by themselves and they love it. They think it's fantastic. I know this is not for me, that I am not supposed to be alone, because that's not my life path. I came in as a life path 9. I'm here to be with my tribe. I'm here to learn the lessons, finish off lessons, to clear off past life energy, and to shift forward. And being the fact that I am here alone, I'm having to work out some of my fears. I'm having to actually work out some of my lessons. And I go down into a very dark spiral, very dark tunnel. And it hasn't been fun. I mean, it really has not been fun. And for those of you that have been with me for like the past 10 years, you guys even notice when I come off the grid for a while and then I'm back. And that is all about the growing pains that we have in life. We have to separate ourselves sometimes. You can't work 365 days a year and feel like you have a fully equal life, both spiritually and physically and mentally, right? That's why they give you vacation time. Okay, well, that's a joke here in the United States, but that's a whole different topic. But we have to separate ourselves, right? I don't have things necessarily to bring me back into the present, which is also why I don't like being alone. I don't like being alone because at age 5, when I was alone, meaning in my home, in bed, at night, asleep, my parents were there, my door was almost closed, and I had all these energies coming in, I was in fear. So I'm having to work through some of those emotions and feelings. And it just has been compounding and compounding and compounding. And I'm grateful I am and how I have the life I have now, but it doesn't stop the loneliness that I feel. And it even makes me emotional now because I can remember the past few weeks and the past couple months of when I get into that space and I hear my spirit team and they're like, hey, pull your shit together. And I'm like, I am trying to pull this together. And they're like, 3 fabulous kids. You've got the second one going to college. You've got great relationships. Look at all your animals, all of these things. And yet all I can do is be in this space of darkness. And it gets scary from time to time. And yet I start to work through the emotions. I know I have my resources to contact if I come in that space where I need someone to help pull me out. And thankfully I've not been there, but I can't say that I would never be, right? I'm very open to that based on the experience I've had with friends who have passed, have taken their own life for other means. But every morning when I wake up from this, and no, this isn't happening every single night. Okay? I don't want you guys to think that, but when I wake up, that has shown me how strong I truly am becoming and how deeply connected I am to spirit and how I'm allowing myself to trust and bring this energy back, right? And that's a big part of this lesson and allowing myself to go into that darkness, and why I love doing Reiki work and working with clients as well is because we can take this energy, we can mix it up, we can identify it, and then we can cut the cords, allow the angels to come in. I bring in Archangel Michael, as you guys know, and Archangel Raphael during these sessions of where I just completely lose my marbles for a period of time in the evening. And I'm just sobbing. It could be a show I was watching. It could be a commercial about Oreos. It did not matter. Something triggered an emotion that I needed to let go. And I needed to stand in front of that window and I needed to watch the darkness start to set in. And I needed to be aware of my emotions and where I was and look at the beauty of that sun setting and the beautiful reflections that were coming in with the golds and the yellows off of those windows and the birds quieting down and settling down, and me thinking, gosh, they don't have a care in the world. Tomorrow morning, they'll get up, they'll go find their worms, they'll eat the bugs through my orange trees. But yet they also live in fear. Why? Because it's survival, right? In survival mode. And those panic attacks will come in for me. And yes, depression at times, anxiety, panic attacks. These are all things that I've experienced for a very, very long time. Some of it I know is hormonal. So, right, that not everything is mental. Some of it is absolutely spiritual. The energies that I work with from time to time. I did a Reiki 1 class attunements, and I was out for 2 days this last time because it took so much energy, positive energy, loving energy. But I was raising my vibration so high and staying in that space that I slept for almost 2 days because I'm shifting and growing just as everyone else is, right? So I want you guys to know, first of all, that you're not alone, and that it took an 18-year-old who wrote poems between the ages of 14 and 18 and hit some very serious topics on the head, traumatic topics on the head, for me to have to go into that darkness space and pull that energy out. And honestly, while I talk about it and visualize it again, it hurts right in my heart chakra. Like, I don't usually get the feelings within myself, but I know that I'm connecting with some of you energetically because I open up when I do the shows, and I can feel where you can resonate with this, but we're not alone. But by God, I feel alone. I feel alone to the point where I actually reached out and asked for a therapist phone number this past week. We are not alone. And if we allow ourselves to keep quiet when we feel at our lowest, what happens? Right? It's not always good. We have to be able to one another. We have to be able to identify with what our needs are. But sometimes, because of our mental capacity, we can't. But sometimes we can reach out. So before I go on break, and then we're going to talk some more, and I'll do some readings if you guys want some readings as well to lighten the show. But this isn't supposed to be just a light show. It is about where we're at and how we can be raw and true to our emotions. But I'm not doing a service to anyone if I don't express the emotions. Do I need to tell all of my listeners all of my traumatic experiences? No, because that's for me to hold on to, right? That's work through. And I also shield my children from some of my own experiences in life. And I use some of those experiences as learning tools for them to empower my girls and to show my son what needs to happen from a male perspective as a female. So there's lots of life lessons going on, but I was not afraid to say, I need a therapist. Do you have someone that I can connect with? Now, I have close friends that are therapists, but that's not quite the same, because 5 years ago, I actually went to a therapist. I filled out the forms. I'm not going to tell you what hospital organization this was with. Filled out the forms, went in, sat in front of the therapist to her, and she said, I got good news and bad news for you. Not something you want to hear from a therapist. She said, well, the good news is that I can help you, but the bad news is that I can't help you. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, because of the form, right, the questionnaire they give you in the beginning, I was not mentally in a place to where they could give me the therapy that I needed. And yet she was acknowledging my feelings in that first session, but I had nowhere to turn to. And that was devastating to me, devastating. I ended up finding someone else and being able to work through it. And now I've got numbers that I can call, that I will be doing, so that I can work on my own self healing to continue the growth and ascension. So you guys stay tuned. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll continue on this topic about when darkness sets in and how we can help one another out, how we can be there to support one another, continue sharing my story. And then, yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. All right, you guys, I will see you in just a few minutes. Everybody, and welcome back to Shades of Spirit with me, psychic medium, and your local Reiki master teacher, Jaime. See, I got it in today. I got the whole line. That's a lot to say. That's just a lot. Spiritual good. Let's go with that. That's why I like LaShawn's name, LaShawn, the Luminous Mystic. For those of you that are hanging in with me today, I know it's a lot of talk, and not a lot of an exciting show where we've got, LaShawn on and we're doing readings and stuff, but you guys can join us at 6:30 back on Shades of Spirit LLC Facebook, because we're doing readings together. about some cool things that we have up and coming as well. But if I don't talk about some of these things and these feelings and these emotions that I know I'm going through, then I'm not doing a service to those that I work with, because it isn't all through the rose-colored glasses. It's all fine and dandy and smiles and jokes. If we can open up this dialogue and continue to do so with one another, then we can come back from just the producers of society to being more of that tribe energy and shifting and allowing ourselves to grow together. But the big, we have to remove fear and allow vulnerability. We have to surrender, and we have to allow trust to come back in. And the hard part of our human lessons is that a lot of us are like, I'll work with no trust again this lifetime. And then we end up in that same routine. Or we get hit with mistrust in the beginning as children or traumatics that we're cleaning up from past lives. And then all of a sudden we embody that energy until the end, when we needed to cut those cords from the past life that we were cleaning up and release all of that to move forward and ascend. And that's a big part of what I do and what I'm actually going through now. And I have a client / friend reached out and said, hey, I can't watch the rest of your show, but please know that it makes me emotional, that I'm always here for you. That's what I'm talking about. If you know someone who's going through a hard time, if you know someone that has got stuff and baggage and they're not showing it, all you need to do is just reach out, whether it's a text, a phone call, a card. I don't care what it is. But when we don't feel like we are alone and we feel like others are thinking of us, then we start to save ourselves and continue the healing and move into places where we can accept healing. So on this topic, I kind of went back yesterday and revisited some things, and I realized that I asked how I identify myself. Okay. And let me clarify, this is a big topic right now, how I identify who I am and what I am here to do and what brings unconditional love and light to my soul, right? How I identify with those topics. And that's a legitimate question coming from the fact that I work with the spirit world, that I connect, that I am a Reiki master, that I am about love and light and ascension and unconditional love. How do I identify? And how do I identify with my higher self and my spiritual bodies? And then how do I identify as the human body? That is the hardest question. How do I identify when I move into my higher self? And how do I identify in this physical body that's sitting in front of you with achy knees and need knee replacements and blah, 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 right? I've also been asked, am I one with God? Have I walked with Jesus? When I leave this earth plane, what do you go do? Do you work with the archangels? Do you work with the healers? These are things of how I identify in this life. I did not grow up religious, but I believe in a faith. I believe in being spiritual. I believe in being a good human and practicing good human tendencies and exhibiting those for my children to follow. I believe that there's a source, right? However that looks for me. I do believe in the Jesus energy. I believe in evolution. I believe in so many different things that it is very hard for me to have to identify who I am on that level. So I try and walk in all of those shoes every day. And it isn't easy. And there are days that I don't get to accomplish any of those things I want to do. And that's okay. And I have to learn that that is okay, right? I had to sit back and actually ask myself why repeatedly. Why do my knees hurt? Why did I experience that? Why am I allowing myself to hold on to this energy when I know that that lesson has been far done? It's been done a couple of times and I am over it, right? And why does it take an 18-year-old who wrote poems from the age of 14 to 18 to bring me to that space where I am just a puddle, a mess, living through those traumatic experiences and the mistrust of people? But it's because I needed to cut this, and I need to let this energy go, and I need to let go of what happened in those past lives, because in numerology, I have 9 lives. We're all cats in numerology. That's how I like to explain it. And I'm done in this life. I get to go back up to the heavens, to the universe, to source, wherever you feel you're going at the end of this life. But I don't know. I'm sure I will choose to come back because that's how we learn the human lessons. We evolve spiritually and we continue on those paths. But I don't plan on coming back anytime soon. I am tired. How many of you are tired? And yet, why am I sitting here a mess, allowing this darkness to start to take over me when I know better, right? Well, it's because I'm human. It's because I separated out of my higher self, brought myself into the lower human emotions, and now it's much harder to get myself back up to that. I had so many, and I still do, we all do, unanswered human questions. And that leads to the way I react, the way we all react, right? And when I need answers, I need to be able to correlate them to the spiritual world, to my path, to who I identify with, into the human world. Okay. Now, what we also need to learn is that part of our human lessons are influenced by other people's behavior. It's an empath thing. I feel like we should make a shirt, LaShawn. It's an empath thing. So human lessons are being influenced, again, I'm going to say it, by the behavior of other people. That's empathy. And empathy is a huge lesson for all of us. How many of you are empaths? We all are. We all are. I want you to remember a time that you were influenced by the negative behavior or emotional response of someone projecting it out, whether to you or others around you. It could be a work meeting. It could be someone lashing out, across the desk at someone else. And all of a sudden you are feeling that energy and embodying that energy. And now you've been put into a space where that has happened to you. Maybe it's, a relationship to where you were abused. You had traumatic experiences in that relationship, physically, verbally, emotionally, right? But it's the behavior of someone else that gets projected out. And we as empaths, and a lot of us are healers and fixers, are like, oh, bring it. Let me take it. I will fix it. That's not happening. We now have just compounded the past life experiences that we brought into this life with what's going on. And we have a perfect storm for that emotional darkness, right? And again, that doesn't mean don't go see a therapist. It means reach out for help. Find those people that can help you, right? You gave that energy permission. And sometimes we do it consciously and sometimes we do it unconsciously. As an empath, sometimes we are not aware that we are taking that energy on. And sometimes we're like, okay, I'm entering into this relationship with someone. I know that these are the tendencies that they have. I'm willing to work with them per our life contract together. And I know that I am bringing myself into this space, right? Hi, Annette. Thank you for joining. But we gave the energy permission. We gave permission to affect us to the point where we took that lower vibrational emotion and we made that response our own. So how often do you carry that memory in your mind and your energy field? Not very often, unless something has triggered it to come back, right? When it comes up again, we connect into those exact emotions. We put ourselves back in that moment and we start that spinning cycle, which is actually what had happened to me for the past month. I started putting myself into this emotional energy cycle. Hi, Denise. The emotional response triggered can be something you read, something on TV. Like I said, it could be an Oreo cookie commercial. It could be hearing someone in a side conversation, having an argument somewhere, and that puts you into that emotional response and the acceptance that you had. And all of a sudden that energy is working out, right? Then all of a sudden we end up in a cycle, or at least I do. I'm not going to speak for you, but all of a sudden I'm pissed off. I feel guilty all of a sudden. And then I've got shame and frustration. What are those lower energy vibrations? So when I read one of the poems and it took me back to a traumatic response, multiple responses growing up, that I got pissed off. I felt guilty, shameful, and then frustrated all at the same time. Sorry, you may have to bleep that out when we do a podcast, Emily. But I still we're working through those moments, right? And how much of it actually came up that I forgot about that happened. where, yes, as a woman working in a male dominant field through the majority of my career and working my way up in my career, I had my fair share of experiences to where I was in that sexualized position and all of these different things that came up with it. And so that was a trigger for me. And I don't mind sharing that because it's all about getting that out there and identifying what the issue was and then standing in my power now, which is making sure that my daughters don't go through experience, which they already are empowered in themselves, that my son knows what not to do, right? And for some of it, it was, dismissed because I was, working and it was just gestures and stuff that the workers, and it was inappropriate, but I never went to talk to anybody. But I went into guilt, shame, frustration, and anger. Those are tough things to work through as a teenager, let alone have to revisit it as an adult because that emotion came back up. But I'm glad it did, right? I go back to the rules of society as well that I seem to follow and now am ready to break. I'm ready to break free of allowing the behavior of other people living in my life and around my life or part of my life, distant type of way, to dictate how I'm going to feel and live my life. That's step one for me. I am no longer allowing society and those people with those behaviors to dictate where I'm going. That has been the first step of me breaking free. And it has been extremely empowering and a huge release for me. I found the concept of social imagination by C. Wright Mills fascinating. He talks about the capacity to think about our own personal experiences in relation to the larger social forces that influence every aspect of our lives. Now, when we can think that big, we start gaining a lot of perspective and realizing that we can go ahead and start letting it go on the energetic side, the spiritual side, right? Whether they are visible to us or not. So it's not always a visible thing for us. Now, a lot of you know that I turn all human lessons into spiritual lessons. So I've gone back to school. I'm going to school to major in psychology, kind of a no-brainer for me, being the fact that I love energy. I love the way the mind works. I love being able to make that transition. I'm in sociology right now. I find it fascinating about how we have all hurted ourselves as groups and what happens in these particular groups and how I can actually trace it back to past lives and those times and those positions that I was in, and to be able to break cycles on the spiritual side of it. Fascinating, which is why the past couple of weeks has been a big dump for me energetically. Okay. Spirit Walker Nicole's not watching, or she would already have said something to me. I would love to say no more and then stamp my foot down right and walk away with my head held high, but I'm still human, having human experiences, as my spiritual self has her spiritual experiences. Yes, that's right. I have finally separated the two. I am having my human experiences. My spiritual self, she is having her spiritual experiences. And the two will ebb and flow and merge and pull apart together. But I can separate the two and work through each of them in a different capacity, which makes it easier for me to forgive and love myself. And that's most important to me. Because each painful lesson and each person that has come into my life and let me down in one way or another, and honestly, vice versa. I will not say that woe is me and it's only been about, no, I have done that to others, right? I know this because I'm human, right? Those nights where I feel the most lonely because I am in a space where I have time by myself. It's just me and the dogs, crazy ass bird, and the fish that never dies. Just us hanging out in this home. That when I to come in, and when I allow that space to overflow, if you will, I can find the compassion in the middle of it to heal and no longer allow that behavior of those that I have been in contact with or have been around me or in past lives nowadays to influence what I want in life any longer. Stepping into that first class this summer, where it has been a millennial, what it feels like, of years from when I was in school last, I found a new sense of empowerment because not only was I going to further my education as the human, but I was learning so much more so quickly about the spiritual. I literally write notes, and then I go to my notebook for spiritual, and I write a whole bunch of notes on the spiritual side of it. and I start merging the two and start working on healing. But it doesn't mean that I don't need to go talk to someone for a while and to really finish moving this energy forward in a healthy, productive way, right? Because again, I'm human. So I don't know if I'll ever fully connect into the forgiveness energy, right? But I know that I'm going to connect in laughter, and I'm going to connect with my good friends. I have a solid family unit. I'm opening myself up to be loved for who I am. I've been doing that since the pandemic. Since 2019, taking back control of my own life, 2020, spending a lot of that time in that quarantine space and having to work through a lot, then I have been leaps and bounds progressing as a human and a spiritual being at the same time. But the past 5 months, I have learned so much about myself because now I've had that alone time that I've always dreaded and still do, but know that it's been very helpful for me. So reach out to your friends. I'm going to continue saying that because it's so important to your family. If you yourself feel at such a low, call the suicide prevention hotline, call a friend, call 911, find a therapist that can help you. There are therapists that help all different financial brackets as well. When the first one told me that their institution helped me because I didn't answer all their questions to the opening questionnaire correctly, I went, after being extremely pissed off, to another therapist who could sit down with me and help me work through what I was going through at that time. And now I will connect with a different person. But I have to thank the people that actually reached out the past week. 3 different people reached out with 3 different things. And yes, the energy has been so low all in all. I mean, how many of you have been feeling how low our energy has been as a whole, right? We're finally starting to see sun. So for those of us that are used to sunshiny San Diego days, as Emily and I were talking on the break, we're finally seeing that, feeling it, getting inside more, moving more. But we're having a tough time energetically. And it's because, and Denise is like, yes, okay. It's because, now Jody asked this question to me after another, client was talking about her experiences in her home and things attached with her children. Then Jody responded a few days later. She's like, what is going on? And I'm like, guess what? We've all been feeling it. And I've been actually working on a way to combat this feeling energetically all around, because we're starting to heal as a society. We are starting to bring ourselves up energetically. And what happens between the forces of good and evil, if you will, when good starts to win? Come on, you guys. The evil will start to rise, right? That's what's hard. And no, I'm not going biblical, and no, I'm not going supernatural, the show, though I do really like that show back in the day. But I am going with just the natural laws of attraction and the balance, and to keep the order. And when we start raising that vibration up to keep this balance and love and light, that doesn't work so well for the energies down here that want to take that control, right? So what we're doing is we have come out of a pandemic. We have brought ourselves up energetically. And now all of a sudden we start to feel like we're being pulled back down. We're starting to have to go through that darkness. They're trying to come in energetically, and it's a hypothetical you take it with how you want. Okay. But those energies are coming in, trying to bring us back into a space of fear, betrayal, boredom. That's what the pandemic was. Okay. Then we move into our own country and the issues we had, elections. And I mean, I'm not going to get into that stuff, but we have not been doing so well. And then you get into the Ukraine war, back into fear, betrayal, uncertainty. And so now, even though these things are still lingering, even though these things are still going on and we need to acknowledge them, we're still working hard to bring that light vibration up. And then all of a sudden, when we're not expecting it, they're bringing it back down. And that is the tough part, right? So I want to thank Jody for reaching out, and her and I talking back and forth, and actually gave me some different perspectives for what I'm creating for July. And I want to thank another client where out of the blue, she's like, just thinking about you. I want to make sure that you're okay, that you're feeling, your knees are doing well. And out of the blue. Why? Because I continue to send that out to the universe, and the universe is listening. So what I have started is, or I'm bringing back, if you will, is if you guys remember, I actually did this with Transformation Talk Radio. So you guys can go back to those episodes. It was called Sacred September. I believe it was 2 years ago. So you guys will find it in the archives on transformationtalkradio.com, or you can go to our website, shadesofspirit.com. And it was all about being in a sacred space for the month of September. Why? Because it was my birthday. And I was going through a major transition then, and it was very high vibrational. But I knew that we needed to start bringing that vibration back up and coming back together as a community to be able to raise one another up. So I'm bringing back Sacred September, but it's going to be Sacred July. And it's all about gratitude. So Gratitude July 2023. Here it is, right? 31 days of being in a space of gratitude, love, and light. I was going to do this. I've done it before where I was going to do it as a paid group, but it's kind of like the Release and Intentions workshops right now, where I know we all need to come together and do this. So when I put this out come July 1st, there is going to be, you guys can see it on the little thing there, my Venmo, if you feel obligated to donate, because I do spend my time doing these. That's fantastic. Or you want to send me a card, you want to just send me a funny meme to raise my vibration, even exchange of energy. But we're going to go through things like understanding free will. I'm going to get on every day and I'm going to talk about what we're doing in that space of gratitude. As a unit, as a tribe, I am bringing back my tribe. And I want my tribe to expand as it does, but expand across the world again. I want my tribe to be bigger than life because we deserve it. And because I am in a space now where I can fully appreciate it and see it, right? We're going to do things like an active meditation. I'm going to try and do it about the same time every day. Can't always promise because, well, I've got school and I got the kids home, but I'm going to try. That's my one promise I'll make. So I'll try and get it around the same time every day, but it will be there for you to view wherever you want. Okay. So I've got that going on. So stay tuned for that. You guys, we are also doing, if you're in the Marietta area, or we'll come hang out with LaShawn and I, Messages from Beyond. We're going to be back up in Marietta doing our group circle reading. It's going to be on July 15th at 3 p.m. There's only a limited amount of spaces, and we've already sold quite a few spots. So if you want to do that, you got to go to Shades of Spirit LLC to book your spot, where you get a message from LaShawn and myself. I mean, how freaking special is that, right? And then we've got our mystical weekend in the woods. So I can't wait. We have so many of you signing up. We need more. We want more. We want you guys there with us, right? So go look on LaShawn, luminouspathwithlove.com. Read all about it. Send her messages if you have questions. You can book online. She's got payment programs on there. That is for 20th through the 22. And then we're going to be kicking off tonight, 6:30 p.m. Go back to Shades of Spirit LLC for live readings. But we are going to be putting together a raffle where you guys get to buy raffle tickets. And then we're going to be raffling off spots to go on paranormal investigations with just LaShawn and I. It's kind of like when you're in elementary school and your mom tries to outbid the next mom so you can go bowling with your teacher. Same concept, but we're going to have so much fun. We're bringing a lot of energy back into being out with you guys and doing things with you guys. I just am so grateful for all of you. I thank you for listening to my story. If you ever have comments or questions, email me, message me, whatever you need to do. You guys have a wonderful Wednesday. We will see you in 2 weeks. And then don't forget to stop by at 6:30 and join us for our Facebook Live. All right, you guys, thank you so much and have a good evening. You've been listening to Shades of Spirit with me, Jaime. Tune in next time on Transformation Talk Radio as I connect you with your crossed over loved ones, angels, and guides. For more information and to book your own private experience, go to shadesofspirit.com. That's shadesofspirit.com.